So, a very warm good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the webinar regarding the funding opportunities that we have under the India Research Management Initiative. Today, we have experts, research management experts across the globe. So, we have Dr. Bhavna George with us, who is from CDRI Lucknow. She is a research management fellow. We have Dr. Sabuj Bhattacharya, who is a research management grantee as well as a travel grantee. He is from Instant and he is a research integrity. He is working on research integrity there. And along with us, that we have an esteemed committee member, Katrina, with us. So Katrina is from Oxford Clinical OUCRU. So she's based in Vietnam and she's joining us from there. So very warm welcome to our panelists. And I'm Relina. So I'm a grants advisor at DBT Welcome Trust India Alliance, and with me I have Isha. So Miss Isha Goyal, and I will be uh, hosting the webinar for you. And through the webinar, we will have talks about the various funding opportunities at under IRMI, as well as the journey of travel. Grantee, fellowship, research management fellow, a research management grantee, and travel grantee, as well as perspectives from the committee from Katrina. So hope you find the webinar useful and hope you find information that you are looking for while applying. And we look forward to your questions also if you have any queries through the process of the webinar or in general about the application or the whole um, what is the scheme about, what is the mandate about, and anything. We are happy to have an interaction and answer your questions. So I'd like to begin with us introduction to what IRMI is. But before IRMI can be introduced, there's a short few seconds I would like to talk about what India Alliance is. So India Alliance is as an organization, we are a charitable trust which is registered in India and it funds research in health and biomedical sciences. So as an organization, we are funded by the Department of Biotechnology India as a part of Government of India, as well as the Wellcome Trust UK. And we invest in transformative ideas, support research ecosystems to basically advance discovery and innovation, which is aimed at improving health and well-being. So apart from funding researchers across the country and funding projects, we also fund various other programs which are involved in promoting national and international collaborations, skill building workshops, as well as strengthening the research ecosystem. So when I keep on saying strengthening the research ecosystem, that's where IRMI or the India Research Management Initiative comes in. So the India Research Management Initiative was started with the aim to build capacity for research management and create a community of practice that supports knowledge creation and innovation for addressing global challenges. Through this initiative, India Alliance has aimed to strengthen the ecosystem for research in India, and it also is planning, I mean, it's also working towards providing a ecosystem for research managers and more trying to reduce the administrative burden of researchers as they go through their cycles. So before we go into the various funding opportunities, I would like to first talk briefly about what we understand by a funding cycle and where do research managements come. So when we think of research, that is something which requires funds from various organizations, and a PI that heads the research will go and try to get these funds. But when you look into the funding part as such, it's not a one-person driven exercise. It's something which may be initiated by the PI, but is managed in conjunction with the institution, the funders. There are various stakeholders in the whole process. And if you look at a funding cycle, you would start with a pre-award where the individual or the scientist and researcher would find a topic they would like to work on. They would write for funding. So for writing for funding, they would determine which organization or which funder they want to write to. They would create a proposal according to that, right? Develop a budget. They will put together a grant application and then submit the proposal. So these steps as such seems like something which can be always PI driven, but over time it has been found that group of individuals like research managers, their inputs have been very important to ensure that the administrative burden on the PI is reduced. And there's this gap and where the research and the research management has not been able to be completely in sync. And with IRMI, we have tried to ensure that these processes are streamlined. They are we build a community of practice where we have individuals who can ensure that the organizations in universities across the country, as well as help develop collaborations globally to ensure that there is a very smooth and streamlined workforce which and a working flow chart. So now going through the pre-award processes, we after the PI or the principal investigator submits the proposal, then they will be looked at by the funding organization, then they may receive an award. So once they receive an award, they will have to go and activate the award. So then after the activation, it comes to the post-award side of the funding cycle, which is more where the various staff is being hired, the research is being initiated. So there's a expenditure tracking, there's annual reporting, there's a plan for follow-on of funding, and then there is a transition. There may be transitions where a researcher may move on from one organization to another. There could be some kind of a break, or there could be various conditions where there might be a requirement for the individuals to step in and assist a researcher in making sure that the grant work goes smoothly. And finally, there's reporting in the end of the grant cycle. So there are a lot of points in this whole cycle where a researcher will really be helped by the presence of research managers, research administrators in their journey of doing the research. And that's where IRMI is sitting, and IRMI is trying to come in and help everyone develop this kind of expertise in India. So when we look at research management as such, it can be maybe broken up into 5 main headings. That it is partnership building. So a lot of the work under research management involves interaction between stakeholders, developing partnership, developing working with organizations and collaborating with organizations both internationally and nationally. So another part is the pre-award services that I just spoke about. Then we have post-award services. Then there's statutory compliances. These could be ethical approval related compliances or various memorandums that need to be provided to ensure that the work is done according to the required policies and required points that have been put on by the government. So as well as there is the research output management. So research management and administration kind of can be bracketed into these 5 points. And if we think of like a bird cloud which covers most of the parts what research management is, then we have like working on a budget, working on reporting, working on creating ethical approvals or with the ethics committees. Then there's a pre-award part, post-award part, project management. So all these points kind of come together, and they are all categorized at what research management and administration is standing for. So moving on from this, like now we come to the India Research Management Initiative. So I hope like we all have some understanding of what research management is, how it is slightly different from how it is rather different from working on a proposal and doing research. And now understanding what IRMI is, how it came into being, and what it is planning to do through this initiative. So IRMI, or the India Research Management Initiative, was piloted in 2018. So it was started with the vision to identify gaps in institutional research support and to record concerns of the community of the research management administrators in India. So it started with a few of our members from India Alliance in 2018. They went to around 40 institutions, spoke to the various research members there, understood their concerns, and then they started a pilot project. So the IRMI pilot was launched in 2018 to 2019, which was basically to support these research institutions and RMAs to build both local knowledge as well as to leverage international expertise. And over the years, through the pilot, we understood what are the strategic priorities we want, and I'll come down talk about them in a few seconds. And with that knowledge, we started the IRMI funding programs from 2019. So 2019 to 2024 is the current cycle that we are going through, in which IRMI is being implemented by a combination of various flagship funding programs as well as community activities. So moving on to the strategic priorities that I was just talking about. So as from all the interaction with the various organizations and the understanding of what all concerns and what all gaps have been there in this research management support, we understand we developed IRMI to ensure that these gaps can be filled, or these gaps, or there would be an effort to fill these gaps. And some of them, or to start with, are the four main strategic priorities that IRMI was based upon. The first would be that to support research centers in India to strengthen research management services available to the researchers. So these universities or various institutions, they would be able to provide a research management service where the burden on the researcher is reduced and they can focus on their research while ensuring that the funding and everything is going on smoothly. There are no breaks. It has also been developed with the priority to support training, career development, and providing networking opportunities for various research managers and administrators. It was built with the idea of developing national and international partnerships for knowledge and resource exchange, and to create a community of practice for research management in India. So overall, with these priorities, IRMI was started in 2019, and over time we have evolved, and we have had a lot of our awardees working on various projects and uh, pushing through the research management community in India. So now that we know what research management is, what IRMI is, how it is come into being, we'll talk now about the various funding opportunities that we have under the India Research Management Initiative. So we can divide it into three main categories: the launch or the RM fellowships. So these are for institutions that are in the nascent stages of developing a research office. So when these are the organizations that do not have a research management structure, they can apply for research management fellowships to support the research management offices. The second stage of our funding opportunities is for augmenting the structures that are already present, and these we do through the research management grants. So the research management grants are overall aimed to support and enhance the existing research management office. And finally, along with these two, we provide networking opportunities for our research managers, and that is through the travel grants. These research management travel grants are basically for research managers to travel both to international conferences or national conferences and develop learning opportunities for themselves, and bring back that knowledge to their own organization to ensure a better structure at their own organization, to collaborate with research managers globally. So all these three stages are what the IRMI funding opportunities is aiming to enhance in India, that is ensure launching of the research management offices, augmenting as well as networking. And till date, we have had 4 rounds of award, and this is currently the 5th round that is in progress. So moving on from this, I would like to talk about now from the first part of the funding opportunity, that is the the IRMI Research Management Fellowship. So the Research Management Fellowship, as we have, is a combined mentored fellowship, as well as an institutional strengthening program. It is for research institutions that are seeking to establish their research management office through the activities of an individual who has been recruited specifically for this purpose. So these fellowships are basically for organizations that are in the early stages of developing their research management support. And through this scheme, India Alliance is basically aiming to support the creation of research management or research offices at diverse institutions across India. The scheme is also for providing a unique opportunity to help embed professional research management support within institutions at very early stages of building the central research support facilities. So basically, this whole fellowship is about developing institutional strengthening program, and it is implemented via a research management fellow that is recruited for this purpose. So going in slightly more in depth of what these research management fellowships are. So firstly, the provisions of the fellowship are basically, I'll talk firstly about the provisions of the fellowship. That is, we provide salary support for the RM fellow, which is around up to 6 lakhs funding per annum. And the institutions I have an option to either request the maximum permissible amount of 18 lakhs towards the salary support of the fellow over a 3-year period of the fellowship, or they can decide to choose a lesser amount as a salary contribution for the nominee. So do note that while deciding which kind of support they require, the mandatory minimum support of 6 lakhs per annum has to be provided by to the research management fellow during the fellowship duration. So the second type of costing that can be requested as part of the research management fellowships is the other miscellaneous costs. So these are specifically clear, as written on a website also, these are clearly defined expenses which are towards the establishment of a research management office. And these costs are combined, the combined cost towards the salary support and the miscellaneous expenses should not be exceeding 18 lakhs. Now, apart from these two costs, we also provide 1 lakh per annum, total of 1 lakh as a training budget for the research management fellow. And research and mentoring of the fellow as mentoring support as mentioned. And the total duration of this fellowship is 3 years. Do note that there is no overhead cost that is included in these in the budget, and the fellow would be included in the IRMI community as they transition, as they go through the setup of the research office, and they can reach out to the community to get more information, to get more knowledge, and as well as to network and collaborate. So the second point that I would like to talk about is the institutional contributions that are required. So the institution is required to provide office expenses, resources towards the research office, ensure that there is an integration of the research management or research management fellow or the nominee into the existing administrative structure, as well as ensure that there is a steering committee in place who monitors the progress of the fellow. And the third point that I would like to note on regarding the research management fellowship is the roles on the application. So as we know that while filling the application, there are different roles that are there to ensure that the fellowship is taken forward smoothly. And the first such role is the sponsor, who's basically an individual who would undertake the institutional responsibility for the fellowship and agree to the IA award conditions. And as part of the application, we require a letter of support from the sponsor addressing the long-term sustainability of this project. The second individual or the second role of the application that is of note is the fellowship supervisor. So the fellowship supervisor is a senior researcher or a member of staff at the host institution, and they would be taking responsibility for research management or for the research management fellow, as well as ensuring the progress of the project. And we would also require a letter of support from the fellowship supervisor, which contains the mentoring plan and the key steps, which include the key steps for guiding the candidate through the term or tenure of the fellowship. And third important role on the fellowship is the nominated research management applicant or the nominee here. So the nominee would have to ensure that they have spent 50% of their total working time on the research management fellowship. So a minimum time commitment of 50% is required. We do not have any specific criteria regarding the eligibility of the nominee, but we will need to ensure that the nominee is a good fit for the host institution. And apart from that, you may add mentors and collaborators to your application. So these are at your discretion. So if you have these are at your discretion, and you can choose the mentor and collaborator that you would like to add to your application, depending on the requirements of your organization as well as your the mentorship you would like to gain through the tenure of your fellowship. So moving on, the next part that I would like to talk about is the application format and the selection criteria. So we require in the application, we require background information, which is mainly to the status of research at the institution. What is the status of funding also at the institution? How much is the quantity of research that is being conducted? Like what kind of research is being done? Along with that, what is the status of the research management at the institution? And the third point that we require, third information that we require is the IRMI institutional registration form. So this is available on our website, and we'll show you where to download it. So the second aspect that we would like to talk about right now is the vision of the research office. So this is one of the important criteria that the committee, while looking at the application, ensures that it is there and it's provided in enough detail. So the vision of the research office should include the expected impact of the office, what the plan is, what are the milestones, what are the challenges that they face, may expect to face, what kind of solutions they have. So these all can be part of the vision as well as the long-term goals of the office. So depending on, I mean, it would be good to provide this information in detail. And the next part is the implementation plan. That is an important aspect of your application. So the implementation plan would include the various steps that you are taking towards implementation, ensuring that the proposed proposal will be taken to fruition. There should be a management plan of how you plan to manage the project. The nominee profile should be fit to the requirements of the host institution. The budget should be provided in detail, and like there should be a justification for every budget item that has been requested, and the proposed time course and milestone of the project. So which year, what is your aim, what is your output that you are expecting from a project, and how do you see the research office coming into being, and how do you see the research office being sustained. So that's the fourth point or the fourth main heading that I would like to come to, that the sustainability plan of the office beyond the grant period is something that the office and the committee looks through in very great detail. And it's not just of the office that the sustainability plan should be provided. It should also be provided how the RM fellow or the nominee would be sustained beyond the grant period. And another point that we would also like to add is the availability of resources. That is, what are the resources that are available to us for the research office activities, as well as what are the resources that will be available for the career development of the fellow. So all these points are something that you should be keeping in mind while filling up your application for the research management fellowship. And we will also, I'll just talk about the various, in brief, the selection criteria. And on the right side of the screen, you have the main headings of the application form. So the selection criteria can be broadly divided into looking at the effectiveness of the research office in furthering research and innovation at the host institution, the time course of activities that are leading up to a functional research office, the profile of the proposed RM fellow and their fit to the institutional requirement, and the adequacy of management and the sustainability plan. So these from what we saw in the previous slide, these are the four main selection criteria based on which the committee and the office will go through the application, and how it will be decided on, how the outcome of the application can be decided on. And as I said, that the application in general will have a set of instructions, so we request you to go through them in detail. Then we have a section on host institution, where you provide the details of the host institution, the status of research and funding, as well as the status of any grant management or grant or research management support that you have presently at your institution. And then you have a section on the nominee, where their statement of interest and their career is one of the main points that is looked at. And then we have the project details, which include the vision of the institution for a central research office, the expected role of the nominee and their fit, the role of and impact of the research office, the kind of support, the sustainability plan, and any collaborations that are being envisioned to ensure the research office has a positive outcome, and the milestones that you want to see through the tenure of your fellowship. And finally, we have a budget section in which you can request the required budget under the required headings, and additional information which might include letters from any collaborators that you have, or any the required support letters from your fellow super sponsor, your fellowship supervisor. So with this, I would like to also, one more point of importance is that the institution and the nominee are advised to write these proposals in consultation with each other to ensure that the wholesome proposal, which has both the nominee as well as the institution perspective, is presented to the India Alliance. And just before I close the section on IRMI fellowship, I would like to just show the map of institutions that we have. So till date, we have had 4 rounds of IRMI fellowship, and as you see that we have a good base across India, and we are still not fully across the country, but we have started to make our mark in India. And research managers and research management is being started to come up. The research management offices are being developed. So with this, I would like to I'd like to hand over the next segment to my colleague, Ms. Isha, and she will be speaking about the research management grants as well as the research management travel grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Relina. Hello, everyone. I'm Isha from India Alliance. So I'll be talking about first starting with IRMI research management grants. Next slide, please. So the main purpose of a research management grant is to develop a unique research management solution for addressing your institutional requirements. So developing resources like an online grant management system,
Isha, please turn on your mic.
Okay, I'll start again. Sorry about that. So I'll be talking about India Alliance Research Management Grants. So the main purpose of a research management grant is to develop a unique research management solution for addressing your institutional requirements. Developing resources like an online grant management system or databases that add value to the existing research office. This may require funding, training, as well as mentoring. So institutions looking for support for expansion of their existing research management services can apply for this scheme. The funds can also be used to create a national resource which is openly accessible to the research community, or can be used for supporting learning visits in research management, also for networking events and collaborative projects. Next slide, please. Coming to the provisions under this scheme, up to 10 lakhs can be requested for a 1-year project. Funds can be requested for personal support, support staff salary, trainings, and also any other justified cost for improving the existing research office or developing the resource. Research managers hired as part of this grant can become a member of the IRMI community. Coming to the application, the primary roles in the application are mandatory, and this includes a sponsor who must have a signatory authority on the grant, and the sponsor must provide a letter of support addressing a long-term sustainability plan of the resource. And the next is the applicant. For applicant, please note that there can be more than one applicant. And in such a case, there will be only one lead applicant who will be the primary grant holder, and the other applicant will be the co-applicant on the grant. And the co-applicant participating on the grant must be from a partner institution. The lead applicant will be called a nominee who is nominated by the research institution for this grant application, and the other roles are Coming to the other roles are optional and can include collaborators or mentors who can train the research managers to develop a system and fulfill the objectives of the proposed grant. So it is expected that the institution applying for this grant has a pre-existing established research management structure. There is some support for office expenses. So this research management structure is well supported with all resources, and it is also integrated with existing administrative structures at the host institution. Applicants are also required to identify members for a steering committee. These can be members from any, it can be internal as well as external. And this committee is mainly meant to monitor the progress of the grant and also aid in the development of the research office. Next slide, coming to the application format. Applicants can visit our IRMI webpage and download the application format under the application process tab. In the application, primarily we seek information regarding the status of research at the institution, status of research management at the institution, and the vision for their research office. What we look here is whether gaps have been identified in the ongoing work and if any proposed solution has been thought through to address these gaps. These are the main points and the main aspects that need to be catered to in the application. Applicants are required to provide an implementation plan and is expected to describe all the steps towards implementing the solution to address these gaps. And in addition to their a detailed management plan, budget details with justification, as well as milestones across different phases during the project tenure should be included in the application form. One important aspect of the application is the sustainability plan, and applicants are required to provide a detailed plan of sustainability of the research office during and beyond the project duration. This is something that it should be noted. And this must also include description on the sustainability of resources and how the research management staff will continue to engage at the institution beyond the grant period. One more point I would like to add here is that institutions which are not registered with the IRMI network previously, they are required to download the institutional registration form and duly submit it to the IRMI via email. Next slide. So I would like to describe the selection criteria for award of an RM grant. So what the committee assesses on can be divided into 5 different components. Applicants are required to be mindful of these points when applying for this competition. One is effectiveness of activity or the resource in furthering research and innovation at the institution. How the existing research support will be augmented, and how the proposed plan will help in integrating with the Indian research ecosystem. And finally, as talked about earlier, research management plan and sustainability plan. So these must be elaborated and must be described in detail in the application. And this is what will create your impact. In the next slide, this is a map of institutions which have been awarded the research management grant from 2019 to 2022. As you can see, the network is expanding rapidly and the awardees will get a good opportunity to be part of this growing community. Moving to IRMI research management travel grants. Aim of the travel grant is to facilitate networking. Does so by supporting research managers and administrators at the Indian institutions in attending in-person and virtual conferences or workshops in the area of research management. Eligibility for IRMI travel grant is you should be part of the IRMI network. Members at Indian research institutions and employed in research management roles with at least 3 years of experience in research management. The aspect of grant and competitions. So the main provisions this grant gives is travel awards of up to 3 lakhs each are available as contributions towards travel, visa, accommodation, meeting registration, and other costs. While support is available for attending multiple events, all relevant details for each event should be present in the application. Applications to the 2023 round of IRMI Travel Awards can request support for attending research management events in the period of March 2024 to August 2024 only. Institutional contributions. So the employing institution will be expected to advance the costs towards for the awardee to attend these meetings, and the India Alliance will reimburse these costs later up to a maximum of 3 lakhs post-travel and upon receipt of the expenditure statement and consolidated travel report for all the meetings attended. The selection criteria is how will this experience help the applicants' specific professional development goals? How will this experience contribute to the applicant's current work in research management and administration? And effective dissemination of knowledge gained by the applicant to their organization and beyond. So the main RM events that are going to be held during this proposed period are Encura, IRMA, Sarai, IRMA. So these can all be looked into by the prospective applicants, and they can plan their travel and apply for the grant accordingly. Some important points to note for applying to all IRMI funding opportunities are only one application from a not-for-profit institution supporting biomedical research will be considered for the scheme application. Form can be accessed from our website. It's a Word document, so applicants are required to fill the details and send the application as a PDF so that so the duly filled format should be sent as a single PDF to the IRMI email ID. And it should be submitted over email by the deadline. Institutional registration form submission is a prerequisite for the application submission. All institutions should be a part of the IRMI network. Next slide. So this is a snapshot of the India Alliance website from where you can download the application form. You can see the encircled link where you can find the application form. So the submission deadline is 20th November 2023 midnight. So please ensure that you have emailed us and are at keep time for to collect all the required letters and so that completed applications are submitted. Next slide. So the IRMI has been working towards creating resources to guide Indian applicants. And this is a webinar series that you can find on our YouTube channel, which is can give you a lot of insights on about research management in India and how you can make your applications further stronger. Next slide, please. This is the impact of IRMI network, and you can find the form for registration into the IRMI network. This is for both for institutions and individuals can register. You can just download this form, fill it, and send it to us at irmi@indiaalliance.org. Currently, the IRMI network is expanding, and we are having registrations at a very rapid pace. Thank you. Please, if you have any questions, just post it to us in the chat box, and we'll be continuing to the further sessions via committee. Handing you over to Relina.
Thank you, Isha. So I hope you have got a good some insight on what the funding programs under IRMI are. So the next segment would be talks by our previous research management fellows as well as grantees and committee member. So we would start with the talk from our IRMI fellow, that's Dr. Bhavna George. She is the IRMI fellow at CSIR's Central Drug Research Institute, Lucknow, that's CDRI, since 2021. She did a PhD from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, which was followed by a postdoc at MD Anderson. And at CDRI, she's presently working in the pre-grants management on a pre-grants management program. Apart from this, she's also been facilitating international grants management, and she has recently successfully organized the India Bioscience Regional Young Investigators Meet at Lucknow. So through her work, Bhavna has been trying to enhance research ecosystem in India by strengthening the research management support and address global challenges. And I hand over the mic to Bhavna. She can start her presentation about her journey through the RM fellowship and how she decided and on what project she wants to work on. All over to you, Bhavna. Thank you.
Thank you, Relina. And thank you, IRMI team, for giving me this opportunity to present my role as research manager at CDRI. So a little bit about myself. I did my, Relina has already introduced, I did my PhD in cell molecular biology from Nanyang Technological University. Then I did my postdoc in cancer biology from MD Anderson Cancer Center, where I was also taking care of lab management. Then I worked with India Bioscience for 1 year as a freelance project coordinator, where I was coordinating webinars for international grants. There I developed my interest in research management. And since last 2 years, I've been working in CDRI as IRMI fellow. So CDRI is a drug discovery institute with more than 100 scientists, and the projects are multidisciplinary team-based projects. I am based in Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Office, which is equivalent to Research and Development Office. And on day-to-day basis, I interact with faculties, PME, Business Development Unit, IP Unit, and I receive constant mentorship and support from institution as well as IRMI team in my activities, learning institutional guidelines, and they steer me in the right direction. So my roles are mostly pre-grant support, but I also take care of post-grant management, enhancing institutional memory, and I have organized a few events here. I'll give a brief work that I do in pre-grant support and management. So when I was writing my proposal here for IRMI fellowship, then when I was in discussion with CDRI, we realized that pre-grant support was something which was missing here. So then I streamlined through the research office, I streamlined proposal submissions, strengthened pre-grant management support. So the office is a point of contact between R&D division, funding agencies, R&D faculties, and the higher authorities. So the office provides single window comprehensive support. Few new initiatives that the office has started are international grant call calendar and resources, regular updates about upcoming funding opportunities. So now researchers here are more informed about upcoming grants, and submitted proposals have complete documentations. And we also coordinate proposal review meetings with ensuring feedback incorporation. The impact has been increase in proposal submissions, and we also saw increase in international grant submissions. First time we saw Fulbright Nehru Academic Professional Excellence Fellow and other international fellowships awarded. Apart from external funded projects, we also help in CSIR funded projects like the big mission projects, for example, facility creation projects. Fast track translation projects are projects with commercialization potential. Last year, one was awarded to CDRI. And because of thorough feedback incorporation, 4 out of 6 proposals that were submitted to Phytopharma mission proposals were awarded. Apart from general like national pre-grants, we also facilitate paperwork for international grants. Since we are receiving money from outside India, the paperwork has to be very thorough. So I'll give an example. Faculty was trying to get funds from international charity organization, and because of the paperwork process was getting delayed, then I took up the work, and then I coordinated with the faculty, business development unit, IP unit, the PME here, foreign charity organization, security sensitivity clearance committee, headquarters, and finally we got the grants and project has already started. So apart from pre-grants, I also take care of few aspects of post-grant management like international grants and other complex cases. So I'll give one example of that complex case. An intermediate fellow was trying to transfer from CDRI to other institute, and there has to be transfer of grants and equipments, and I coordinated with the faculty, the internal teams here like stores and purchase, our CDRI accounts, the division where he was working, and also with India Alliance Finance Department, and finally the transfer of grants as well as equipments were successful. The other work that research managers have to do is coordinate the important institutional meetings. For example, I have been editorial team member of Research Council documents and CDRI annual reports for last 2 years. Now, so what is the impact of IRMI fellowship and this office on the institution? So through this office, we have strengthened interdepartmental associations between administrative unit, finance unit, international S&T affairs in CDRI, as well as headquarters, faculties, business development unit. Apart from that, IRMI fellowship has helped me tremendously in my personal growth and career growth as well. So we get ample opportunity for presentations, and it has helped me enhance my soft skills, leadership skills, organizational, time management, communication skills. And I got this chance to coordinate leadership meetings, and trust me, it gives a completely different perspective. And IRMI fellowship has provided me constant mentorship. We have this network of research managers in India. We can always reach out, and everybody is very helpful. We can ask any queries or doubts. So now I will just give few tips on IRMI fellowship application. So as Relina had mentioned earlier, please listen to the IRMI webinar resources. They are very helpful. And then find a host institute whose vision and mandate match your interest. Like, you really have to write proposal in consultation with the host institute. So work with the institute in formulating proposal. Find out the gap in their research management. And while writing the fellowship application, mention your strengths, your soft skills. For example, if you had taken up any leadership role, if you had organized an event, so those will come handy. One more tip I want to give is that plan it well, because after application, it will take about 10 months for start of your fellowship. If you have any other queries, you can always reach out to me. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna, for the wonderful insight in your journey as a research management fellow and the contributions you're making at your organization. So moving on, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. That's Dr. Saboj Bhattacharya. So Saboj has been awarded the RM Travel Grant as well as the IRMI Grant. And in his talk, he would be discussing his experiences and his journey in both these different through both these different funding that he's received. So taking a few steps back, I'd like to first introduce Sabuz. So Sabuz is currently the Scientist and Research Ethics and Integrity Officer at DBT INSTEM. He did his PhD in Wildlife Sciences from Wildlife Institute of India as well as the University of Colorado Boulder. And moving from there, he explored conservation genomics during his postdoctoral tenure, received training in academic integrity and compliance during his PhD as well as postdoctoral tenure, and while working at India Alliance previously as a grant supervisor. So over his career, he's been actively involved in teaching research and publication ethics to doctoral students at, or rather not over his career. At present, he's been actively involved in teaching research and publication ethics to doctoral students at the Bangalore Life Science Cluster, as well as other institutes across India, and conducting research to identify gaps and challenges in academic integrity across the Indian higher education and research ecosystem. So I hand over the mic to Sabuz to take us through his journey as an RM grantee as well as an RM traveler. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Relina. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen because suddenly it'll look different. I'll just share my enter screen and please let me know when you can see the full screen.
You can see the full screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Relina. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Shobuj, and thank you, Relina, for the wonderful introduction. So I work as a scientist at Institute for Stem Cell Science and Regenerative Medicine in Bangalore. So this is India's first stem cell research institute dedicated to stem cell science and regenerative medicine. And I'm also heading now and trying to build India's first dedicated research ethics and integrity office. While doing so, I was assessing the gaps and challenges within my own institute and trying to understand what is the challenges other people who might be teaching research ethics and integrity to different kind of stakeholders might be facing. And this is very important because research misconduct is a global problem, but the magnitude varies across institute, across geographical scale. And one of such example for here it is publication retraction, the process through which all the publication which is unreliable, people take it out through the retraction process. Here is my unpublished data. I have got the data from Retraction Watch, which indicate in last 2 decades in life sciences, there is increased amount of publications which are retracted. This particular graph or box plot also highlighted the importance that in recent past, probably due to invention of different kind of techniques like image integrity tool, text integrity tools, lot of publication which get published in 2000, 2005 and 10 now get retracted. And the reason could be research misconduct, which is plagiarism, data fabrication, falsification, as well as regulatory compliance and other issues. And India contributes around 5% of total publication retraction in the field of life sciences. Even though India has ethics guidelines, like as mandated by UGC, ICMR, stem cell guidelines, but there are unique challenges which often faced by developing countries, because often many of the guidelines is difficult to implement because they are adapted from other countries, which is culturally and very unique. So copy and pasting those guidelines doesn't help. Also, I work at an institute which is a part of Bangalore Life Science Cluster, which is a multiple different kind of institutes. So we do have resource availability, but it will not necessarily always will be adequate. For example, here we can have Authenticate to check the text integrity. We have proofing system to check image integrity. Also, we do have dedicated office of research integrity, dedicated office for research compliances. It might not be the same or the same scenario, same kind of facility might not be available across all institutes within Bangalore, near my institutes, as well as other institutes across India. We do have existing policies which are present in public domain. Here is NCBA's INSTEM policies on research misconduct, but then often other institutes might be facing problems while drafting those policies. We do have capacity building program as suggested by UGC, and we reached out to larger numbers of doctoral students and visitor in last 1 year time. Therefore, our project trying to understand current gaps and challenges in research ethics and integrity within Bangalore Life Science Cluster Institutes, as well as different institutes across India, which might have very different kind of resources and other facilities available. For which I try to collaborate with my colleague, Dr. Ketan Thorat, who is specialized in research compliances. But then to understand these gaps, I'm planning to do a questionnaire survey. So I collaborated with Dr. Saloni Bhatia at Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and Environment. She is specialized in questionnaire survey. She's a sociologist. And we have hired Ms. Sevanti Tiwari, who is also helping us with this all questionnaires survey. At the moment, we have developed more than 3,000 academicians list who dedicatedly work in the field of life sciences. We also received human ethics approval because we are planning to do the questionnaire survey. So that is needed that institution human ethics committee give us the approval. We have the MOU signed between DBT INSTEM and ETRI, and we are planning to launch the survey this month. Second objective of my current project, which is awarded by IRMI RM grant, is to conduct the capacity building workshop primarily for the life science faculties from state and central universities, especially from the geographically distant places like mountain states in India, as well as central India and East India. We are planning to do in-person workshops very soon to understand gaps and challenges of each these faculties might be facing. So we'll bring them to our campus in Bangalore and we'll be facilitating their interaction with very specialized people who work in this particular field of ethics and integrity and compliance for a long time. And we hope combining this workshop outcome as well as information which we get from online survey together to make a policy document which help Government of India to make appropriate interventions. And finally, our another aim is to create an online free database to be hosted at INSTEM website as resources, which will help different teachers to actually teach research ethics and integrity. At the moment, Government of India and UGC mandated 2 credit course for all the PhD students. But then often there is no dedicated website available where teachers can get their resources to teach. Here is an example in your screen, what we are trying to do to get information. For example, these highlights different kind of resources. It could be article, it could be editorial information. All we are collating from internet or Google search and Web of Science, different kind of through resources and databases and collating them in one place. And we are planning to host these particular information in our website, which will be accessible to everybody after the completion of IRMI grant. Here are a few ways which I prepare my application and which I think will be very useful for any applicant. I cannot emphasize enough for the fact that you have to start quite early so that you have enough time to dedicate for each of the different sections of the application to make it more competitive. While thinking about your project proposal for research management and management grant, because it's for 1 year period, you have to think about both local scale drivers as well as global scale driver. For example, when I think about local scale, it is my institute as well as other institute within Bangalore Life Science Cluster, what kind of challenges they are facing while upholding the research ethics and integrity. Whereas in global scale, I was thinking about the fact what other institute across India might be facing the problem. So your statement, which is very important, which you should be talking about both of these drivers. It is important that you talk to your steering committee members early enough to get their comments and discuss the project ideas to refine them and add them to a project proposal to make it more competitive. Also, I have Dr. Ketan Thorat with me, who is my collaborator. So identification of collaborators in your particular application is extremely crucial because collaborators add value to your project. Because you not only get benefited with their expertise, but also they give you very unique perspective, which you might be missing somehow. Also, when making this collaboration, it is better to set the expectation at the onset very clearly. That means how much and which kind of effort as well as support you might be needing from your collaborator. It is important to have a realistic time frame, especially because a research management grant is only available for a year period. And that is crucial when you are designing your milestone and deliverables for your section of timeline. And also think about, in case something go wrong, how you're going to adjust if needed. For example, when I received my selection letter for IRMI RM grant, before I could recruit our project associate in my project, there was election in Karnataka. As per Government of India's norm, we could not hire for 2 months. But then I had enough space and I had to adjust, I had the flexibility to adjust my timing of my different objectives in time so that it did not affect my progress of my project. And finally, prepare the detailed budget. Detailed budget does not mean only adding the names of the item for which you are requesting your money, rather provide appropriate justification. For example, when you're saying that, okay, I need a computer for this particular project, who will be using the computer? Basic specification of this computer. Okay, and those things will be also mentioned. It is not only give your committee very clear idea that how serious candidate you are, but also it will give your committee idea that you thought through different stages of your budget. Sometimes people say, and I agree with them, if you provide your ideas visually, it probably quite an easier way to people understand your thought process. Here I used one of such flowchart for my project, so that considering the fact that our committee members who are selecting and reading multiple such proposals might be very busy. So here is a glimpse which they can go through and immediately understand what I'm trying to achieve in a 1 year period. Therefore, key to success, I believe, be realistic about project objective, especially sometimes if your project objectives are quite ambitious, especially in the numbers, it might look little unachievable in front of your committee members. Read carefully the funding agency's guideline, especially what you can actually add in this particular project proposal and what you cannot ask. Arrange all required document well in advance. As my colleagues at India Alliance already explained, there will be multiple letters needed, and consider everybody who are different stakeholders. It could be a sponsor or supervisors or collaborator might be busy, as well as steering committee members. In case any letter required, inform them beforehand so that you have all the letters in time. Now I quickly talk about IRMI travel grant, which I received to attend a particular conference called European Conference on Ethics and Integrity. When I decided that I will apply for a travel grant, first thing what I did, I did a Google search, what kind of academic integrity conference is available and very well recognized in the field. And I did that because integrity, and there is no other academic integrity fellow whom I know in India. So I was very, very careful while selecting the conference, because similar to predatory journal, there are also a lot of fake conference. So I put multiple effort to ensure that conference which I'm proposing is an actual conference. And how I did it? So I went to the conference website. I checked carefully the topics to ensure my expertise or my wish to present in a particular topic matches with the conference topic. I also checked who are the organizing committee and where they are located, their areas, to ensure there are exactly people who are specialized in the field of academic integrity. I went ahead one more step. I actually written to Dr. Sivada Subramaniam at University of Derby, who is the head of the conference committee, and fix an online meeting with him to know about the conference, to be 100% sure that whatever I was looking for, very intimate conference experience, actually this is the right conference. And he provided me a glimpse of the previous conference, which make me very confident that this is the right conference for me. I also checked pre-conference workshop. Here is a small examples, what kind of workshop I actually attended in during the workshops. So before even applying for IRMI grant and conference, I wrote to Jinat Khan at University of Wollongong, Dubai, Irene in Coventry, as well as Salim in Çanakkale in Turkey, to know what kind of workshop they are planning to do. So I was very sure about not only the conference, but also quality of the workshop, to ensure that I am very, very confident about this, about the fact that I really want to attend this particular conference. While preparing application, as I mentioned, I started early. I identified the conference and I took a lot of help from my colleagues at Research Development Office, both for my grant, research management grant, as well as travel grant, both cases. I provided as much detail possible in all sections of the application, especially statement of interest, where you are supposed to write why you would like to attend this particular conference. I discussed in detail long-term and short-term implications of my attendance to this particular conference. That means how it will impact my career, as well as how I can disseminate information which I might learn in this particular conference. And I prepared the budget. I tried to put attention to detail. It was really challenging because when I applied, it was November and the conference was actually in June. So I was not sure how much flight ticket will cost, but still I did multiple time Google searches, Skyscanner, to find out how much flight tickets generally fluctuates, what is a train ticket generally cost between London to Derby, what would be the hotel cost in general through booking.com. So this gives me very clear idea amount of budget might be needed, and then I increase 10% to consider the fact there might be inflation in the next year. At the conference, I gave an oral presentation about how I am building this multi-institutional research integrity office first time for India. I attended 3 pre-conference workshops. Before going to the conference, I actually wrote to multiple resource people who are leaders in the field. So I could do 7 in-person meetings during the workshop. And I actively networked with other colleagues whom I met in the workshop. Post-conference, I joined 6 working groups, and these working groups are invitation only. So I proposed what kind of contribution I will make to each working group. And all of these working groups are very relevant to my current job role. That means they have very direct influence on my professional career progress. And this particular conference gives me this feeling that feeling of belonging, because in India, I do not know anybody else who works on research ethics and integrity. I always felt very lonely that I'm the only person. But then the moment I went to the conference, suddenly I am surrounded by wonderful, kind people who are specialized in research ethics and integrity. And I cannot express my happiness to connect with those people. Additionally, I used learning which I had in this conference. For example, in this conference, I attended a talk by Jinat Khan at University of Wollongong, Dubai, and I learned there is actually video game and multiple different kinds of games online freely available, which a teacher can use to teach research ethics and integrity to students. And which immediately when I came back, this is a picture of my ethics and integrity class for doctoral student in August 2023. So I use those learning in my classroom. And here my students are actually playing with the plagiarism game. Additionally, I could foster multiple different collaboration with different universities and colleagues across the world, with whom now I'm submitting more grant proposal, as well as trying to understand how artificial intelligence can influence academic integrity. Apart from attending the conference, I also did take out time to enjoy the food, as well as enjoy the Britain's wonderful sceneries, as well as cultures. And at the end, I'd like to acknowledge my director, as well as faculty advisory committee members who are very, very supportive, who are located at INSTEM and NCBS. My colleagues at RDO, as well as administration and finance team at DBT INSTEM, who helped me to build my research proposal, as well as helped me to actually attend this particular conference in UK. And most importantly, India Alliance, who gave me this grant so that I could experience and learn from through this particular research management grant and travel grant. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saboosh, for the wonderful talk. So your experience as a RM grantee as well as a travel grantee has been incredibly valuable. And I hope our participants can get a good idea about how the thought process of an application and how everything is put forward. And moving on to the next segment, I'm really thankful today to Katrina for joining us. So Katrina is joining us from Vietnam. She's the Grants and Communication Manager for the Oxford University Clinical Research Unit based at Ho Chi Minh City. And OCRU, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is a large-scale clinical and public health research program. It is part of the University of Oxford in the UK and receives considerable funding from the support from Wellcome Trust considerable funding support from the Wellcome Trust as part of the Asia and Africa program. So Katrina has worked in the research management field for more than 15 years. So she brings to this webinar a huge amount of experience. And her career has taken her around the world from New Zealand to Asia to the Middle East. She's been committed to developing the capacity for research management and research uptake in Vietnam as well as in the Southeast Asia. And today we request her to share her perspective on research management along with the inputs for the selection process from the committee side of the whole process. So thank you, Katrina. Over to you.
Thank you, Relina, for that lovely introduction. Let me set up my screen sharing. Here we go. Okay. So I was asked to come and talk about what my experience is of being on the selection panel for the fellowship grants and also for the research management grants. And I've been doing that for a few years with IRMI and the India Alliance, and it's always a really interesting and rewarding experience to see these wonderful projects coming through, as well as to see the outcomes of those projects, because, you know, as we have heard from the previous two speakers, these projects can produce a huge amount of impact. And when you're on the panel and you're trying to figure out which project should I give it to, it's great to be able to see those impacts coming through a couple of years later on. I wanted to talk about a little concept that I use when I'm evaluating proposals, and that I also use when I'm coaching applicants who are applying for fellowships and other kinds of proposals. It's a very simple rule. We call it the 3 Ps. But first, I'll talk a little bit more about myself, because I'm so interesting. This is about my organization. As Relina said, I come from Oxford University Clinical Research Unit in Vietnam. Our goal is to have local research with global impact. So we are actually quite a large research program based in Southeast Asia. We want to have a local and regional and global impact on health in the countries where we work. And we're working mainly in infectious diseases. I'm going to show you what that means about where we are. I'm in the middle here in Ho Chi Minh City. But our program actually spans these 3 countries, and we have 4 site offices. So there's a unit in each of those site offices, and they range in size sort of from 400 people in Ho Chi Minh City to there's only about 40 in Hanoi and 100 and or so in Nepal and around 120 in Indonesia, and continuing to grow. So we're quite a large program looking at health and medical research in Southeast Asia area, but we also collaborate with our sister unit in Thailand, Moru in Thailand, and they do similar stuff in the other countries of Southeast Asia. So between the 2 of us as these big programs, we cover a lot of biomedical research in Southeast Asia. So when I said I wanted to talk about the 3 Ps, And one of the reasons why I just wanted to introduce myself there, so you can see a little bit about me. So for myself as a person, my background is, so first P is P for person. When I'm evaluating, when anyone is evaluating a fellowship or a grant, we want to know, who are you? Who is it that is applying for this? What's your background? So for you guys to understand about me, my background is I'm from New Zealand. I've worked in research management for a really long time. I'm really, really interested in developing the careers of the people who work with me. And that's one of the reasons why I really like working with IRMI and the India Alliance, because it gives me an opportunity to provide some development support to people who are beginning to work in the field of research management. So this kind of background information helps us as a reviewer to understand who you are and what motivates you. We want to know about your training and education, and we want to know about how that influences why you're applying for this. What is it that you want to do? What do you want to get out of it? We want to know whether or not you're capable of doing what you're proposing to do. And so that means that you would need to give us some evidence in the application around that. So maybe some storytelling like what we've heard already, that's really helpful, or some concrete examples of some specific things that you have done. These can help demonstrate your capability. Your personality comes into it as well. And sometimes, not so much with this scheme, but sometimes with other fellowship schemes, you might see that the funder wants to interview you, because we can see a lot of stuff in writing, but it doesn't always give us a huge understanding of the person who we're trying to develop. And when we're doing these grants with IRMI, we're looking to develop the research manager, as well as the institution where the research manager is in place, as well as fund the project that they're proposing to do. Which leads me to the second P, which is the place. So in some ways, as the applicant or the fellow, you might think, I can't really control the place, but you kind of have some influence. And I think it was another speaker said, look for an organization to sponsor you, someone to work with, who's going to be supportive and who shares your vision. So by the place, what this means is, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in the biggest or the best organization in the biggest capital city or something like that. It means this organization where you're proposing to do this project, is it a supportive environment? Is it a place where they really are also willing to put in the commitment? Are they prepared for this project? Are they prepared to host you? Are they willing to contribute something to ensure that both your project succeeds and you succeed as an individual, and that it has some impact and it is sustainable and there is a future plans beyond the life of this particular project? So when we're evaluating the proposals, we're looking at the person. We want to know about the person. We're also evaluating the place. And that is why we ask for you to have a sponsor. We ask for those letters of support, because that helps to give us that understanding around where you're going to be located and where the fellowship is going to be centered, and how ready that organization and that environment is to support this grant. And finally, the third P, though I'm sure you could think of more. I don't know if you heard that. There's a massive thunderstorm happening outside here in Vietnam right now. But the third P is the project. So of course, this is also really important. And we've had examples of a couple of projects already. We want to know what it is you're going to do with this funding over this period of time. How long is it going to take? Can you articulate how much it will cost? And this is one of the reasons why we ask you to do a budget, to figure out and tell us how much it costs and justify that budget, is because it really shows whether or not you've thought about the actual details of what is going to happen during the course of that project. If you can evaluate the budget, if you can outline exactly all of the things you're doing, like even to the level of how much is the flight going to cost, is there going to be a train, what do I need to put aside for the train, what time of year is it going to happen? Those kinds of questions are important because they demonstrate to the reviewers that you really understand what's involved in the project and you can really demonstrate value for money. You're not going to ask for more than you need. You're not going to ask for less than you need, but you are going to have adequate resources to do the project and you understand what's going to be needed to deliver the project. On top of that, we are looking for a description and an understanding of what resources you might need to deliver the project outside of the budget resources that you're requesting. So for example, that might be something like having a research management system. It might be something like having access to other members of the faculty or a supportive team around you, or a really good sponsor or mentorship in place. Those are some of the resources that you might need to be able to deliver the project. We also want to know, what's the outcome? When we've finished this, what is the outcome going to be? And that previous presentation again demonstrated this very well. The outcome of that travel grant was a ton of new connections being built, a sense of community, having many more ideas and things that can be used and developed further on. And we can see even early on evidence of the impact that that particular grant has had. Impact can be a confusing thing because people can think, well, how do I know what impact it's going to have when it hasn't happened yet? And I'm not sure if it's going to be funded, and I'm not sure if it's going to have that uptake. But you can plan for the impact and you can plan your project along the lines of what sort of impact it will have further on in the organization. Because the purpose of these grants, the fellowships and the research grant, research management grant, the purpose of these is to develop people, is to develop institutions, and it's to develop the country. So it is really important that you can articulate and identify in your applications some of the impacts that might arise from India Alliance and your organization and yourself making the investment in this project, and what those outcomes might be and what those impacts might be. So it's really important thing that we evaluate when we're looking at a proposal. I haven't got a slide about this, but I want to talk about one or two things that kind of make me think I probably don't want to select that proposal. I don't really like telling people don't do this. I like telling people do this, but there are one or two things in these schemes that are kind of come up every now and then, and that I think would make me not select. So one thing would be if the institution, the host institution, hasn't really got a clear plan for what's going to happen after the end of the project, there's no indication in the proposals that there's ongoing support, that might make me think this project is going to be funding that's not going to have enough impact, because we need the institutions, the host institutions, to also have some skin in the game and to also want to contribute to the project, maybe not financially, but certainly in terms of providing other resources and providing support. Another common mistake that I see, and something that makes me a little cautious, particularly in the fellowship applications, is we're not looking to fund a postdoc and give them 50% of funding because they're currently underfunded 50% in their postdoc research program. We're looking to fund professional research managers. Well, you may be a postdoc, which is fantastic. You don't have to be. I didn't do a PhD. But if you are a postdoc, the purpose of this is not to substitute or just do half of your job as a postdoc and then kind of refill in the back budget and give you a few administrative duties. We're looking to fund people who are really serious. This is why we're saying, and if you're the person, I want to know what your motivation is. I want you to be seriously interested in developing the research management capacity in your program, in your organization, and your organization is also seriously interested in doing that, and they're not just looking for supplementary funding for their postdocs. So those are kind of the two red flags that come up every now and then in some of the applications. But really, the main thing is to have a creative project, have a creative idea, have a good place, and be able to demonstrate your personal motivation and what has brought you here and why you are a good person for India Alliance to invest in. I'm going to stop there because I know we're running out of time, but thank you everybody for listening to my little talk and giving me the opportunity to share my experience.
Thank you so much, Katrina. That was really helpful for all of us here in the webinar today to understand what goes in the committee's mind, their perspective, your perspective, while going through applications and while assessing them. So we can maybe take a few questions right now, 1 or 2, and the rest of the questions can be sent to us over email. We can also, a lot of these questions had been put in the chat and we have responded to them. So if anyone has any further questions, they can raise their hand right now. Yes. We are also enabling the camera as well as the apologies for the delay. We have enabled the camera as well as the mic for everyone. So if anyone wants to ask a question, please raise your hand and we can take your questions. So we have one question regarding the CSIR labs being registered. So individual organizations have to register. So you may check with your organization if they have registered with the IRMI network. Otherwise, you can send an email to us. So if we had some questions regarding the IRMI grants, what are the provisions, as well as the IRMI travel grants. So I hope you have received your responses to them. But if there are any further questions, we have time to take one question if needed. See, we don't have any questions. I assume. Oh, Ponari has a question. Ponari, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yes. Hi. I just wanted to know, on the website it doesn't mention, but I just wanted to be doubly sure that is it mandatory to have an abstract accepted to apply to the IRMI travel grant?
No, it's not mandatory. You can give the proposed travel grant conference and why you would like to attend the grant travel particular conference, justify it, but it's not compulsory for the conference abstract to be accepted at the point of the application. If accepted, it would be a positive point in your favor, but it's not a compulsory requirement for the travel grant abstract to be accepted. We have a question from Ankita. Sonal is there. Sonal, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. I don't see Ankita.
Hi, thank you for this informative session. I had a question which is regarding the IRMI grant. So we already had a successful grant at Ashoka University in the year 2021. So I just wanted to check whether we are eligible to apply for a fresh proposal in this year. And second question I have is that is there a capping on the number of co-applicants or co-PIs that we can have in this project? And third, if such projects can also be of the multi-institutional nature.
Thank you, Ankita. It's a very interesting question. So one by one, the same institution can apply for an RM grant again, but it cannot be in the subsequent round. So since Ashoka is present 2021, they can apply in the current round. There can be more than one, there can be co-PIs, but there has to be one primary PI who will be driving the grant. For the co-applicants, they can have to be from partnering institutions. So that way you can have partnering institutions in a application, but the funding support will have to be the office will go through the budget and can get back to you if there are queries regarding how the support and everything is being split between the organizations. Does that answer your query?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kamakshi, you can have ask your query.
inquire about.
Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I just want to inquire about that if I'm a new joinee to a recently established research management office, so are we eligible to apply for the IRMI research management fellowship?
Actually, the IRMI Research Management Fellowship is an institutional fellowship. So we see if the research management office is in its nascent stage. It's more not about the nominee as individually. The office has to be in the early stages of establishment. There shouldn't be a research management structure which is very clearly defined in the organization. So from the information you have provided, we don't have all answers to all of this, but depending on the eligibility of how the institution's research management office is at the current stage, you can apply to for the research management fellowship, and you can write to us at IRMI@indiaalliance.org for any further information, and we can write back with if we need any further clarification.
Yeah,
Hope
thank
that
you, ma'am.
answers your question.
Surely, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
I think we can take one final question from Alpana, or maybe Ankita is back. So if we have 2 minutes, then we'll take 2 questions and then we'll wrap up this webinar for today. So Alpana, please go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly check, is it possible for an institute that has an ongoing research management fellow at the institute to apply for an RM grant? If yes, then what is the criteria? If no, then when is the institute eligible to apply? Thanks.
So generally for the fellowships, we advise that in the 3rd year of the fellowship, you can apply for the grant. But this year, the grant and fellowship end date depends on the fellowship end date and the grant end date. So we cannot have both of them active at the same point of time. So it would be advisable if you could write to us and we can discuss this in further detail on how to have the research management fellowship and the grant applications in the simultaneously ongoing or ongoing fellowship and the grant application in the same state. Would that be okay?
Sure, thank you.
So I think we don't have any further questions right now. I really like to thank all our panelists who took so much of their time and they put so much effort in describing their journeys and how they have come to this research management as a passion and what they have been doing in their time as research managers and how IRMI has helped frame their lives as research managers in this field. And also Katrina for giving that exceptional presentation about how the committee looks at the presentation, how a committee looks at the applications, and my colleague Isha and for assisting me throughout this presentation. So, and thanks to all our attendees who patiently heard us and had questions for us. We hope to see your applications also soon. Thank you, everyone. With that, we'd like to close the event.